democracy, republic, oligarchy. Let's go ahead and end it all, and let's have a form of monarchy. And I, for once, offer myself to be the new emperor or king of America. That's right. Give it up for King Kit of the USA. Gee, Kit, what are you talking about? Well, Curtis Yarvin wants American democracy, or a constitutional republic, to be replaced by a form of monarchy led by its CEO, and thinks certain races are better than others. What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? What could go wrong? In fact, you know what? Because this segment's so great, we're talking about monarchy. Forget it. Buy now, Kitcoin. And also, hey, why not? Monarchy in the USA. What could go wrong?
Blogger who's been a fixture of right-wing circles around Silicon Valley, the computer engineer turned political theorist, wants to see American democracy replaced by a monarchy led by a CEO. And now, Yarvin has the ear of some of Washington's most powerful people. CNN's Hadass Gold has more.
Hi, Hadass. Nice to meet you. Thanks so much for doing this.
Meet the man inspiring the next generation of MAGA, Curtis Yarvin, who thinks America should no longer be a democracy. Even before Trump's re-election, he envisioned a fantasy world where Trump was president again, and with chilling accuracy described how he would take aim at public and private institutions without any interference from Congress or the courts.
Obviously, I'm not the secret mastermind of the Trump-Vance administration.
You're not? I thought there was a hotline.
The software engineer and blogger has been called the father of dark enlightenment political theory. That means he thinks democracy is overrated, and what the U.S. needs is a king.
A monarch, a single focus of authority is, absolutely necessary to run any integrated system efficiently. You could probably put any of the Fortune 500 CEOs in and say, okay, you're in charge of the executive branch, fix this. They'd probably do fine. They wouldn't be Hitler or Stalin.
And he's got some powerful people listening.
No one's going to do this. By the way, we already have an oligarchy. And take it from me, as someone who lived in I lived in Chicago during Daley Jr.'s reign, okay? And the thing is, Chicago had a father and son collectively, granted there were different mayors between their two terms, rule over Chicago for 40 plus years. That's a long time. Old Man Daley and Daley Jr. We've had aldermen in power for decades upon decades. So, yeah, we actually do have some form of modern day and age feudalism. We have U.S. senators that have been in office for so long, they've even forgot they're U.S. senators. Okay, that was mean. But, oh, no, look, he's on Tucker Carlson's show. Does Tucker Carlson support a king? There are no kings in Rome.
I think you're pretty far out in a way that is worth thinking about.
There's this guy, Curtis Yarvin, who's written about some of these things.
Years before Elon Musk and Doge, Yarvin coined the phrase RAGE, retire all government employees. Next, he sees a world where the power is not with the people.
Should there be, though, elections in your world of a sovereign CEO?
There needs to be a way of basically holding the sovereign CEO accountable.
But not every single person should have a vote.
I have 4 beautiful children. None of them have a vote.
Experts in democracy like Harvard professor Daniel Allen, who publicly debated Yarvin, say his ideas are dangerous.
It is not the case that autocracies over the course of history have delivered good for human beings. They have consistently violated freedom.
Not surprisingly, Yarvin is no stranger to controversy. He's been accused of using racist tropes and whitewashing history.
Certain races are better at certain things than others.
Do you not necessarily believe, then, that certain races would be better at governing a country than others?
Again.
Oof. Oh boy, here's that landmine, baby.
And, governing a country is just a skill. And, it's like the British in India would basically say, oh, this race is a governing race, this race is not a governing race, based on culture, based on tradition, based on biology.
So you're saying, yes, certain races would be better at running governments than others.
Would be better at doing anything, but those are only averages.
As for Trump, Yarvin says the administration is still not going far enough in harnessing executive power.
You laid out how you thought things could be done in a way that were fast, that may be a little bit dirty, and some of the things they do seem to be doing there in the White House. Are you not pleased with how they're doing it?
No, because I think that if you basically take anything complicated and you try to do 10% of it, you're not going to, 5% or maybe 1%, you're probably not going to result in anything good.
Instead, Yarvin is looking to younger generations.
I think most of my influence on sort of the Trump administration is less through the leadership and more through like kids in the administration.
By the way, I did post in a poll here, who should be king of America? Mad King Kit, King Trump, King Kong. There are no kings in Rome. At a tied 34%, it very well could be Mad King Kit. Trump is losing. King Kong is in a second place, but it's tied. The correct answer is Mad King Kit, all right? But listen. My policy on deep dish pizza remains the same. All pizzas will be equal in the new America. All pizzas are equal. It's just that Chicago-style pizza will be the first among the equals, the princeps amongst the equals. The first one. All are equal. All are equal. It's just Chicago-style is the first among the equals. Makes reasonable sense. And this isn't open up for a debate. It's the correct choice. And now you know. And it's nothing but love for all the styles of pizza. Hawaiian style, Detroit style, Washington style, whatever the hell that is. You know, stay out of the room. The adults are talking. And New York style. And yes, there's Chicago style. But listen, all are equal. All are equal. It's just that we are the first among the equals. Simple as that.
Who read my kind of stuff because my audience is very young. And
Are you in touch with staffers at the White House on a regular basis?
I don't really know what a regular basis is, but
Are
you
you
know,
emailing on the phone with them?
are there people in the administration who are on signal groups with me? Yes, there are. I'm just out there in the marketplace of ideas, you know, and I think the marketplace of ideas has definitely expanded in the last 10 years.
CNN media correspondent Hadass Gold is with us now for more on her reporting. Hi, Hadass, great to see you. So Yarvin has been writing about this for more than a decade. Why are scholars in democracy so concerned about people like Yarvin gaining popularity right now in this moment?
Yeah, Yarvin has been writing for a long time. He's been around the sort of the Silicon Valley right wing, well, Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen for a very long time. But it's really been in the last 5 years that he's taken off. And it's young people, especially, as he noted. I spoke to some students at Harvard who really cited COVID and COVID-era policies that cause them to be disillusioned with how things are currently run. And that's why scholars are rather alarmed. Daniel Allen, that Harvard professor who debated him, said one of the reasons she even wanted to address him, that she even would debate him, is because of his rising popularity. And they're worried for several reasons. For one, they say autocracies consistently violate freedoms. There's also economical issues when you talk about putting some sort of CEO-like dictator in charge. They say that they lead to declining economies, to capital flight. I spoke to one professor at UCLA, Daniel Treisman, who said that democracy increases GDP per capita by 20%. And one thing that they said that Curtis Yarvin often talks about, he says, you know, you could put any of these CEOs in power and they wouldn't be a Hitler and Stalin. He tried.
Oh, yeah, because that'll work out perfectly. Oh, you can put all of them in power. Don't worry. Power never corrupts. Listen to me very carefully. You know, controversial statement here, but these are things you don't want to say because you don't know how people react. And, you know, listen. A lot of these people who have all the money in the world, and look, don't get me wrong, who doesn't like to have money? I would like to have some good money and take care of the people I love and all that good jazz, because there's some people I love. But let me tell you something. You know, there's been a lot of reports and books and some of these guys just really being, you know, up and up, you know, that kind of thing. So as far as I'm concerned, we have to remember that we are living in a day and age where just things are nuts. So just remember that, folks. And somebody's calling me. Who's calling me?
That our society
You know, and I think the marketplace of ideas has definitely expanded in the last 10 years.
CNN media correspondent Hadass Gold is with us now for more on her reporting. Hi, Hadass, great to see you. So Yarvin has been writing about this for more than a decade. Why are scholars in democracy so concerned about people like Yarvin gaining popularity right now in this moment?
Yeah, Yarvin has been writing for a long time. He's been around the sort of the Silicon Valley right wing, well, Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen for a very long time. But it's really been in the last 5 years that he's taken off. And it's young people, especially as he noted. I spoke to some students at Harvard who really cited COVID and COVID era policies that cause them to be disillusioned with how things are currently run. And that's why scholars are rather alarmed. Daniel Allen, that Harvard professor who debated him, said one of the reasons she even wanted to address him, that she even would debate him, is because of his rising popularity. And they're worried for several reasons. For one, they say autocracies consistently violate freedoms. There's also economical issues when you talk about putting some sort of CEO like dictator.
Autocracies cause problems. I mean, oligarchy cause problems, like what we have here in the USA with our constitutional republic, where money is speech and corporations are people, and Democrat and Republican politicians are bought and do insider trading and have cushy lobbyist jobs waiting for them. And the fact that they are also, some of them are rich billionaires or millionaires. I know millionaires are now broke people now, huh? I guess that's where we're at. So it's not like that we haven't seen our fair share of corruption or politicians be in terms longer than 2 or 4 years and in fact be in power for decades. Don't worry, it's not before your very eyes, but let's have a king
in charge. They say that they lead to declining economies, to capital flight. I spoke to one professor at UCLA, Daniel Treisman, who said that democracy increases GDP per capita by 20%. And one thing that they said that Curtis Yarvin often talks about, he says, you know, you could put any of these CEOs in power and they wouldn't be a Hitler and Stalin. He tried to argue to me that just the way that our society currently is would not lend itself to create a Hitler or a Stalin and the atrocities that they caused. But these...
Wow. So we haven't had presidents sign the orders of the extermination of the Native American tribes. Good. Great. No atrocity. No atrocity, folks. Don't worry. We had no sitting U.S. presidents during the foundation of this fair republic sign the orders to remove the Native American nation. Don't worry. There was no genocide. Oh, was there slavery? No. People didn't have the right to vote unless they owned land. All women couldn't vote? It's a good thing that never happened here, folks. I mean, come on. Can you only imagine? By the way, this is going to be a short history lesson, and I know to the historians in my audience, the lovely people and the haters are going to type like, oh, well, there's a little bit more detail in that. Well, during the Nuremberg trials, you know, where the infamous, we were only following orders. When the Allied prosecutors, especially the American prosecutors, were confronting the Germans from Germania, like the SS, and asking, how could you do this? Where did you learn it from? One in particular said, oh, we learned it from you and how you guys handled the Native Americans. We learned it from you, Dad. Where'd you learn this from? We learned it from watching you. Oh, okay. Oof. It's getting hot here. Oh. Where'd you learn from again? We learned from you. Good thing. Good thing none of that happened ever, period. Right? Why is there silence?
Dictator in charge. They say that they lead to declining economies, to capital flight. I spoke to one professor at UCLA, Daniel Treisman, who said that democracy increases GDP per capita by 20%. And one thing that they said that Curtis Yarvin often talks about, he says, you know, you could put any of these CEOs in power and they wouldn't be a Hitler and Stalin. He tried to argue to me that just the way that our society currently is would not lend itself to create a Hitler or a Stalin and the atrocities that they caused. But these scholars, they say, listen, a lot of these autocrats, a lot of these dictators, when they come in, they might be well-intentioned, but as they try to hold on to power, that's when they become more and more repressive, and that is part of the issue. Other than, of course, you know, if you like to be able to vote for your representatives in Congress, if you like to vote for your leaders, what he's arguing for is essentially saying we shouldn't necessarily have those types of elections. Guys.
Hadass Gold, excellent reporting. Thank you very, very much for that report. Right now, I want to bring in our senior legal analyst, Ellie Honig. Ellie, I want to highlight.
Here's the analysis. How about no money in politics? Separate money and politics, right? No oligarchs, no kings. Okay. All right. Now look, I've made it very clear my opinion on this show. Everything for planet Earth went to shite as soon as Aurelian was assassinated. Since then, the timeline's been destroyed. But there should be no kings.
At least part of what we just heard from Hadass. Yarvin was asked how to make sure a leader doesn't become the next Hitler or Stalin. His response, and I'm quoting him now, you need to concentrate that power in a single individual and then just hope somehow that this is the right individual or close to the right individual. Ellie, what do you think about that?
Well, this is a far extreme view, obviously, Wolf, and it's not fully fleshed out. When the answer is, well, let's just hope for the best, that's not particularly convincing. Now, that said, it's important that we pay attention to this individual's views because, as Hadass's reporting shows, there are high-ranking people in the administration, up to the vice president, who have in the past cited his principles and apparently are using them as some sort of guiding force. Hadass elicited from this person that he apparently is in contact with some government officials. We can see some echoes of what he's advocating in the actions of the Trump administration. They are pushing the outer boundaries within the courts, within the context of our legal system, of their executive power, and at times even going beyond that in the efforts to try to control universities and law firms and media organizations. So this is a core fundamental battle that will play out in the courts and in our political theater.
Great. We're going to be talking about that. You know, here's how I feel about monarchs and the idea of having absolute authority and dictatorships.
And here's what I think about it.
Exactly. Wise words indeed, and a perfect response. So the final note is that these people are freaking nuts. These politicians, like, it's already before us. CNN, you're pretending that it doesn't exist, but it's been existing before us at the local level, at the county level, at the state level, at the federal level. Politicians in power for decades, or use it once they're out of office, their influence is still felt outside, you know? I mean, in Chicago. Do me a favor, folks. Go on the Jimmy Dore's from Chicago. You know? He knows about the Madigan influence. Madigan, the longest Speaker of the House ever in U.S. history in a state. All right? This guy ran the state of Illinois. House Speaker Michael Madigan. He was the end-all, be-all power player in Illinois. He was a chief component of the Democrat machine. He was a force to reckon with. Okay? Okay? His influence in Illinois history and Illinois politics and Chicago politics will forever be remembered. Okay? We don't need some CEO or oligarch or tycoon to be in charge. It's been happening in one form or another, and even happening in your backyard. And no, I am not rug pulling you.